The Mangala Sutta or Mangala Sutta is the discourse on life's highest blessing. When we talk about blessings, there are two kinds of blessing. One is the blessings that we receive from outside or externally, and the other is internal. When we practice the Dhamma, we live a virtuous way of life and perform our duties and responsibilities, then we become a source of blessing, not only for ourselves, but also for others. In all ancient religions, it is understood that there are beings, such as gods, devas or deities. There are nagas and other beings who have the power to bestow blessings on human beings. The Pali Sanskrit word deva indicates beings of light, and it became the root of the Latin word deus and deus, which developed into the English word as divine. Such beings may be on the path to enlightenment, such as bodhisattvas and Dharma protectors, or they may be on other worldly paths, and the type of blessing they are able to confer to us will differ accordingly. This is what we call external blessings. However, even external blessings can only come through cause and effect. When you understand the principle of cause and effect, you will know that in order to have all the goodness in your life, peace, happiness, success, you must do something for yourself. If you create a cause, then the effect will come. Without understanding the principles of cause and effect, it is difficult to receive the real blessings. Worldly devas may be able to help us with our worldly problems, issues such as relating to our health, wealth, relationship, career, and other worldly matters, but they are not able to help us in our pursuit of enlightenment. For our higher spiritual pursuits, we will need to connect with enlightened beings. There are great enlightened beings who, through their great compassion and aspiration, have manifested in various forms, humans as well as non-humans, in order to lead us out of samsaric existence by gaining our final liberation. In order to receive blessings, guidance and protection from such divine beings, whether worldly or beyond worldly, we need to prepare ourselves so that we become suitable vessels. Just like a water vessel or container, they need to be clean and without any cracks in order to contain water. So, at different stages of our life, we have different duties and responsibilities. When these are carried out properly, we not only become a source of blessing to others, but we also become a suitable vessel for these external blessings. So that's how we apply the principles of cause and effect. Prayers alone are not enough. Whether for our worldly gains or for our enlightenment, we need effort, perseverance to cultivate various wholesome qualities for our wishes and aspirations to be fulfilled. Now, if you look around you, most people go to places of worship to seek blessings. They seek blessings for peace, for harmony, happiness, good health, wealth, and for the general well-being. But when they go back home, more often than not, they do all the things that are contrary to peace and happiness and to their own well-being. They will eat unhealthy food. They get agitated easily, shouting, arguing with one another, and so on. If we wish to live in peace and happiness, we need to generate the kind of thoughts, speech, and body action that will give rise to peace and happiness. What we need to understand is that all our sufferings are conditioned by three unskillful or unwholesome roots and they are, in Pali, they are called Lobha, Dosa, Moha. In English, we translate it as greed, hatred, and delusion. Now, there are three kinds of greed or craving that gives rise to suffering. They are called Kama Tanha, Bhava Tanha, and Vibhava Tanha. Kama Tanha, or the craving to please one's senses for sensual pleasures. Bhava Tanha, the craving for existence. And Vibhava Tanha, the craving for non-existence. The first type of craving, or Kama Tanha, is well known to all of us. It refers to the craving or the desire for sensual pleasures. That is, to seek pleasure, enjoyment through our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. We crave for all sorts of entertainments to please our senses. And when we are not able, we get attached to such pleasures and enjoyment. And when we are not able to get it, then we get upset. We feel bored and upset. The second and third type of craving are not so well known. They are called Bhava, Tanha, and Vibhava Tanha. Bhava Tanha is the craving for existence, that is to exist forever. It also refers to the craving for becoming this, becoming that, and whatever we become, we will still be faced with unsatisfactoriness. Vibhava Tanha is the craving for non-existence, that is, not wanting to become this, not wanting to become that. They are also sources of suffering. It is this kind of craving that often gives rise to suicidal tendency, because it is based on a wrong view, believing that when we die, that is the end of everything, no more suffering. So that is why it's so important to take time to listen or to study the Dharma, to understand the Four Noble Truths and the law of karma and rebirth, in order to develop right understanding or right views about the nature of our life, so that we'll be able to appreciate the preciousness of this human life. This human life provides us with a unique opportunity to develop our mind to gain final liberation. Now, as long as there are craving in one form or another, there will also be aversion or anger that leads on to hatred, ill will, and grudges. When we get what we want, we are happy. But when we cannot get what we want, we get upset and angry. When we crave or cling on to our views, thinking that we are right and others are wrong, we will naturally tend to argue with one another. So all the tendencies to craving and aversion are conditioned by what we call ignorance. Of course, when we use this word ignorance, or sometimes we use delusion, we need to understand it from the Buddhist perspective. Ignorance is not the ignorance of anything and everything under the sun. It is the ignorance of the nature of our life with regards to the Four Noble Truths. When we use the word delusion, we don't mean the kind of mental disorder as used in the psychology. So, what ignorance or delusion refers to, from the Buddhist perspective, is the lack of understanding of the true nature of the self and the world around us. Things that are painful and suffering, we consider them as pleasurable. It is because of the ignorance of the true nature of ourselves and life around us that we continue to grasp, giving rise to greed, anger, jealousy, and all the other unskillful thoughts, speech, body actions that lead to suffering. In order to reduce and eventually overcome the tendencies of greed, hatred, delusion, we need to cultivate the qualities of generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. And we need to be mindful of these qualities and to practice them in our daily life. The Mangala Sutta speaks about the internal source of blessings, how you can live your life in such a way that you become a source of blessing in your life, on both the worldly as well as the spiritual level, leading one to eventually overcome greed, hatred, and delusion that is the cause of all our sufferings. In order to properly understand the Mangala Sutta, we must understand the context in which this teaching was given. Buddha taught this discourse some 2,500 years ago. In India at that time, there was the teaching of the 4 ashramas, which refers to the 4 stages of life, namely Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. Brahmacharya is the celibate life of a student, and Grihastha, the life of a householder. Vanaprastha refers to the forest dweller, and Sannyasa, the life of renunciation. As these terms do not really fit into the Buddhist context in our contemporary society, we shall refer these 4 stages as 1. The preparatory stage, or the growing up years. 2. Adulthood, or householder. 3. Spiritual life. And 4. The highest attainment. Although most of the values mentioned in the sutta are applicable at all stages of our life, this discourse is best understood when we consider how the values or qualities are grouped together in relation to the 4 stages of life. The practice of metta and mindfulness play an important part in order to live in peace and harmony at all stages of our lives. The first stage of life is the preparatory stage, or the growing up years of a student. As students, they would learn and acquire different knowledges and skills in arts and sciences. These knowledges and skills are to prepare them to encounter the world. If we take human lifespan to be about 100 years, the first part of our life, about 25 years, will be dedicated to studies. Even today, by the time one goes through school and then to the university, one will be about 25 years old. The second stage of life is that of the adulthood or householder. In this stage, the husband and wife should cherish one another as well as their children, and perform all the necessary activities associated with their role. This continues until the child grows up and finish their studies. Sometimes in Asian countries, you even have to wait for the children to get married before you are free. Those who choose not to lead the life of a householder should start cultivating their minds and lead a more spiritual way of life. The third phase of life is that of a religious or spiritual life. This is the stage when people would gradually relinquish their worldly duties and responsibilities. They would withdraw from worldly pursuits and lead a more religious and spiritual way of life, going to the forest and solitary places for retreats, where they would exert effort to practice self-restraint, to develop insight into the Four Noble Truths, and realize the bliss of Nibbana. Thereafter, they will be unshaken by all the worldly phenomena, and their minds become stainless and secure, free from the taints of greed, hatred, and delusion. Then comes the fourth and final stage of life, that is, the highest attainment. Enjoying the fruition of spiritual life, they are now invincible wherever they go, they will find well-being and safety everywhere. The teachings of the Mangala Sutta actually given to a certain deva or deity. Many human beings would pray to the devas for all sorts of blessings. But even amongst the devas themselves, they did not know what the highest blessings are. So they came together in an assembly and went to see the chief of the deva, Sakka Devaraja. The chief of the devas said, "Since we do not know what the highest blessings are, why don't we approach the Buddha?" So they appointed their representatives to visit the Buddha. And the sutta relates that as soon as the deva appeared at Jetavana Grove in Sravasti, where the Buddha was residing, the whole place was illuminated by the deva's radiant body. The deva then paid respect to the Buddha and then stood respectfully on one side and asked the question, "Bahu deva manusacha mangalani achintayum akanka mana sottanam ruhi mangala muttamam." Many human beings and devas are pondering about blessings. What are the highest blessings in life? Please tell us what are the highest blessings in life. Then the Buddha spoke the verses of Mangala Sutta with all the qualities of blessings classified under different stanzas. Asevana cha balanam panditanam cha sevana puja cha puja niyanam etang mangala muttamam. Not to associate with fools, to associate with the wise, to respect and honor those worthy of respect. This is the highest blessing. In the early phase of life, when the child is young, the child will imitate whatever he or she sees. They won't understand, but they will just imitate. So when they associate with foolish people who always think all sorts of bad things, speak bad words, and are very rough, rude, and unskillful in their actions, they will naturally follow these foolish people. Wise people, on the other hand, have good thoughts in the mind, filled with love and compassion. They also have right speech and pleasant speech, and they don't resort to lying, slandering, and gossiping. They have right actions. They don't kill, they don't steal, and they don't commit sexual misconduct, and so on. So when the young ones associate with wise people, they will naturally follow them. Now those worthy of respect are the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and also our elders in age and in wisdom. Honoring those worthy of respect paves the way for children to learn from their knowledge and their good qualities. So these three blessings are the foundation of early childhood. They are not to associate with the fools, to associate with the wise, and to respect and honor those worthy of respect. Actually, the blessing should really begin from the mother's womb with the cultivation of metta. When the unborn baby in the mother's womb is about 5 months old, the auditory organ responsible for hearing is already fully developed. So the unborn child can already hear whatever the mother and father says. So that should be the early education. The emotional imbalance and feeling of insecurity in later years as teenagers and adults, these can often be traced to the early childhood or even before birth when the baby is still in the mother's womb. Contemporary early childhood educators emphasize the first 6 years of childhood as crucial period for children's education. Moreover, when the child is brought up amidst love and compassion, they will be able to recognize these qualities as they grow up, and they will also be able to give love and compassion to others. The problems of delinquency, bullying, drug abuse, emotional imbalance, resulting in suicides, domestic violence and breakdowns in family life, and many other issues, all have their roots in early childhood, the childhood upbringing. So parents have a very important role to play to contribute towards peace and harmony in the world that we live in. The next stanza also refers to the young ones. It says, Patirupa desa vasocha pubbeja katapunyata atasama panidicha etang mangala muttamang. To live in a suitable locality, to have done meritorious actions in the past, to set oneself on the right course. This is the highest blessings. Patirupa desa vasocha, to live in a suitable locality. Here you can understand that the Buddha also recognizes the importance of your environment. You need a healthy environment and an environment where there are good people and where the children can have access to learning good things. There is a well-known Confucianist story that will illustrate this point. Mencius was a student of Confucius and became a great scholar in his own right. When he was young, he lived with his mother in a place near a graveyard. On and off there would be Chinese funerals, and young Mencius would wait, and every time he heard the funeral procession coming, he would run to the cemetery. He would watch the undertaker doing all sorts of things, and he would imitate the undertaker. And he would see people throwing papers and so on. Then the boy went back home and he did the same thing at home. But Mencius' mother did not want him to be doing such things in his life. So she thought, I will move. I will shift a bit further away from here so that he will not go to the graveyard. So the little boy could not go to the graveyard anymore. But this time, the city market was nearby. He would go to the market and watch all the activities of the merchants, and when he came home he imitated them, chopping meat like a butcher, pretending to haggle over prices and so on. Then his mother thought, no, this won't do. So she did not want him to grow up like that. Now his mother realized that the environment, the surrounding in which she brought up her son, were very important. Mencius' mother wanted him to study and to become a learned person. So his mother eventually moved again and stayed close to a school. It was actually a Confucianist school. And this boy would go to the school grounds, and even if he did not go into the classroom, he would just listen from outside. That was how he eventually became a great Confucianist scholar. So this is an example of how important the surrounding environment is to a child. And parents have a duty to provide the children with a suitable environment. And of course, in the Buddhist context, a suitable environment would also mean having a place where the children can go and associate with Sangha members and receive proper Dhamma education. Then the next virtue, the next blessing Buddha mentioned is Pubbeja Kata Punyata. Merits create opportunities for one's material as well as spiritual well-being. They are actions which are done with joy and happiness to benefit others. Traditionally, we talk about the 10 meritorious deeds, and they are dana, generosity, sila, morality or good conduct, bhavana, mental development, apachayana, reverence, vayavacha, service, patanumodana, transference of merits, Anumodana, rejoicing in others' merits, Dhamma Desana, expounding the Dhamma, Dhamma Savana, listening to the Dharma, Ditiju straightening of views, that is to cultivate right views. Now these are the 10 meritorious deeds. The first 3 actions, Dana, Sila, Bhavana, they form the basis of all the other meritorious actions. A child who has performed such merits in his or her past lives will naturally be born in a lap of luxuries, or at least in a comfortable home. He or she will tend to be more cheerful and confident by nature. Meritorious action can also be inculcated during early childhood days so that by the time the child becomes a teenager and adolescent, he or she would already have acquired a storehouse of merits. Success in life does not only depend on academic achievements. There are many professional people who are successful academically, but they lead rather miserable lives. So it is very important for parents to pave the way for their children to perform acts of merits through various cultural and traditional practices during Buddhist festivals such as Vesak, New Year celebrations, and the offerings of dana to Sangha members on memorial days and so on. Through their participation on such occasions, the young ones will be exposed to merit making, and lessons can be learned through such informal activities. Meritorious actions will naturally open up the path for the child's progress in their studies as well as in their ability to interact with good friends. The next blessing is about Attasama Panidicca, that is to set oneself in the right cause. Often, young ones do not know what they really want to do. Even up to their college or university level, they would say, I don't really know what I want to be. All depends on my result. The truth is that their aspirations have been clouded by various worldly considerations and expectations. We are born because of some unfinished business, something that we wanted to do or some people that we wanted to help, but we could not fulfill our task when death cuts us off. However, our wishes and aspiration lives on, and we take a new birth. Owing to all the distractions around us, we have little or no time to allow our past aspirations to surface, because we are too busy. With that very tight daily timetable, they keep us occupied, as our parents are also busy working. So we have to learn swimming, singing, go for music, piano lessons, and other tuitions. Our minds are always occupied with things to do, no time to connect with our past life's aspiration. This can be very frustrating experiences for the young ones. Anger and resentment can arise because our new environment, the family and household that we were born into, is so different. That's why we see many young ones angry, unhappy, and rebellious, because they don't fit in with the new environment and the new environment that they are born into. So they feel rather lost, until one day they encounter with something, someone, or some dream that strikes a chord in their heart, something familiar, something that they have seen or experienced before, what we call déjà vu. This may suddenly activate their subconscious mind. They will be restless at first, wanting to do all sorts of things to fulfill their unfinished business, but then that will settle down when they come to their senses. We are all conditioned or guided by our subconscious mind, by things or events that have been strongly impressed or imprinted in our minds from life to life. Hence the need for good parental guidance and a Dhamma upbringing that will also connect us with our spiritual guides, our guardian deities. These are usually our own past parents, teachers, relatives, or friends who are still caring for us. When this link or connection is broken due to ignorance and skepticism, children may suffer. They may feel rather insecure and sometimes live in confusion. So the sense of direction should come about through proper parental guidance as well as our religious conviction. The Jataka of past life stories of the Buddha and other great masters can provide the inspiration to a more meaningful direction in life. All beings wish to be happy, but there are different sources of happiness. Some derive their happiness at the expense of others' suffering through unrighteous or wrong livelihood. Hence the need for proper guidance at the early stages of one's life. Apart from the Jataka stories, there are also stories about our own immediate relatives, our grandparents, uncles, aunties, and so on, about their failures in life, their successes, and so on, which our parents can share with us so that we can avoid making the same mistakes, thus enabling us to set ourselves in the right course in life. Nowadays, after the final years of our high school, parents will think about their children's future career. They will take them to the career guidance counselor for advice, and they will be told what kind of job is in demand that will make lots of money and also provide good status. But all these advices do not take into consideration of past lives experiences. How would someone who has been a farmer for 500 lifetimes, how would he or she fit into a career such as IT specialist, doctor, engineer, or lawyer? It is not impossible, but it will be very stressful. Moreover, most parents want to see their children become doctor, engineer, lawyer, and so on. They don't think about their sons and daughters becoming monks or nuns. However, if they know what Buddhism is about and what the Buddha taught with regards to our real goal in life, our real purpose to gain Nibbana, to gain our ultimate liberation, then they will be better equipped to guide their children in the pursuit of a spiritual path. So a proper sense of purpose and direction in life is important so that all our efforts and energy will be directed, thus fulfilling our full potentials. The next stage in the Mangala Sutta says that once we have set ourselves in the right course, then comes the learning and discipline. Bahu sasancha sipancha vinayocha susikkito subhasitacha yavacha etang mangala muttama. Vast learning, perfect handicraft, highly trained discipline, and pleasant speech. This is the highest blessing. Now herein lies the foundation of Buddhist education. 1. Vast knowledge of the arts and sciences and its application. 2. Well-trained discipline. And 3. Proper presentation through courteous and pleasant speech. The word education comes from the Latin word educere, which means to lead forth from the darkness of ignorance to the light of wisdom. From the Buddhist perspective, it would mean to lead forth from suffering to peace. But when we observe the mass of suffering created by well-educated professionals in the fields of warfare and various other activities, we need to question the kind of education that we are receiving. Bahusatcha means vast learning. At the time of the Buddha, the learning of arts and sciences was mainly through listening. By listening to teachers, you gain knowledge and experience. And not only do you need to gather knowledge and information, there is also sippa, which means handicraft, that is practical skill. You have the knowledge and you must know how to apply the knowledge. Learning through teachers who are able to transmit not only knowledge but also living skills are very useful compared to the modern day e-learning through internet, which lacks the personal touch and the transmission of values and living skills. Moreover, the transmission of knowledge from teacher to pupils involves wisdom and compassion on the part of the teacher, and respect, humility, and gratitude on the part of the student or listeners. These are the values that are lacking in today's educational system. Hence, the need to supplement our contemporary education system with Dhamma education through non-formal as well as informal means. During Buddhist festivals such as Vesak and other cultural activities and New Year celebrations, which promote values such as generosity, morality, through the observance of precepts or sila, and rendering of services to others, and many other wholesome qualities that enables us to develop our organizing skills and practice patience, tolerance, understanding, and so on. Our current information-based education needs to be balanced with a value-based Dhamma education, so as to ensure peace, harmony, and stability within the family, the nation, and the world. The next blessing is about Vinayocha Susikito, which means well-trained discipline. Discipline is about self-restraint, restraint in speech and body actions. In other words, as one grows in knowledge, one also needs to grow in self-discipline. Then the next quality, Subhasitacha Yavacha, that means you are able to present and speak in a courteous and pleasant manner. Somebody can excel in the academic studies and become very successful in the career, but if they do not know how to present themselves in a courteous and pleasant manner, but speak very arrogantly, using harsh and impolite languages, then their lives, their knowledge would not be so useful. So these teachings so far are for us to cultivate the necessary values in the earliest stages of our life, so as to lay the foundation for the next stage of life as a householder. Or householder, Part 1. Once you have acquired the necessary knowledge, skills, and discipline in your childhood days, you are now ready for the next phase of life, adulthood, the encounter with the world. During this period of adulthood, we will be meeting people from various walks of life. We will associate with our own colleagues at work. We'll be looking out for lifelong companionships, and then bringing up of children, caring for parents, supporting relatives, and assuming social responsibilities. All these involve interpersonal relationships, that is, our relationship with others. As such, it is important for us to understand the law of karma and how to cultivate metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, and upekkha, equanimity. Our relationship towards one another is related to the samsaric and karmic bonds which have been developed from past lives as well as within this lifetime. Why are we attracted to certain people and not towards others? Why this particular child has come into our life? Why some relationships are only short-lived and others long-lasting? The answers to these questions lie in the understanding of the teachings of karma and rebirth. Hence the importance of Dharma education. Marriage, from a Buddhist perspective, is to provide the support for one another to cultivate the virtues and qualities that will eventually lead to their final liberation. The Buddha related his story, how as Prince Siddhartha he was married to Yashodhara, and how they have been living together from life to life, even as animals, as deers, as birds, and so on. In order to have such strong and wholesome connections, we should cultivate wholesome states of mind from very early days, cultivating the qualities of loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. The Buddha explained how these qualities should be developed as a mother with her 4 children. To her youngest infant child, she should cultivate metta, loving kindness. To her second youngest child, who is handicapped and disadvantaged, she should cultivate karuna, compassion. To her older child, who is a teenager, she should cultivate mudita, or sympathetic joy, rejoicing their youthful achievements in their studies and other activities. And finally, to her eldest child, who is married, she should cultivate upekkha, or equanimity. Parents with strong materialistic concerns will naturally become disappointed when they get a child who is a slow learner, crippled, or handicapped. They fail to understand that such children have come to them to receive their love and care in order to clear off certain karma of the past. There are also children who are born to help the world, hence the need for proper parental guidance. Those who choose not to marry and lead a household life should recognize the importance of spiritual cultivation, as well as providing humanitarian services that will generate a strong merit field which will support them later in life. Towards the later part of the household life, as we begin to experience separation from loved ones, firstly from our own grown-up children, going overseas for studies, or leaving the house upon marriage, and then there will be the loss of parents and grandparents and so on. So the understanding of the true nature of ourself is important to help us to cope with sorrow, lamentation, and the various manifestations of suffering. Hence the need for spirituality, which will help to transcend the idea of self. Although we use the terms I, my, me, and mine in the conventional world, the reality is something else. The parents, husband, wife, children, and so on, which we claim to be mine or ours, actually do not really belong to us. We do not own them. We cannot make them to be what we want them to be. They have come into our lives as a result of our past connections. As such, we should act as good custodians, and our duty is to pave the way for them to develop their full potentials and gain their final liberation. The household life is truly a workshop on the lessons of life. The Buddha's advice for this stage of life being Mata pitu upattanam puttadarasa sangaho anakulacha kammanta etang mangala muttamam. Supporting mother and father, cherishing wife and children, engaging in a peaceful occupation, this is the highest blessings. Mata pitu upattanam, that is supporting mother and father. In the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha taught the duties and responsibilities of children to parents and parents to children. The first duty of children to parents is to support their parents out of respect and gratitude, thinking, having supported me, I shall support them. This involves material as well as spiritual support. There is a Buddhist parable about supporting parents, and it mentions of how a child carries his or her mother on her right shoulder and a father on the left shoulder, feeding and carrying them until they are 100 years old. He is yet not able to repay the debt that he owed towards his parents. However, if he can pave the way for his parents to walk the Dhamma's path, to lead a righteous way of life that will lead them to final liberation, then that child would have more than repaid the debt he or she owes to his parents. So besides caring for parents at home, it is the duty of children to take them to temples and to pave the way for them to grow in the Dhamma's path. The next blessing is Putta Dharasa Sangaho, that is to cherish wife and children. Here it is understood that a husband needs to cherish his wife and a wife needs to cherish her husband. And as parents, they need to cherish their children. In the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha mentioned the duties and responsibilities of husband to wife and wife to husband, as well as parents to children and children to parents. A husband should be kind and courteous towards his wife and not despise her in times of anger or quarrels. He should be faithful to her and even provide her with ornaments from time to time. He should also authorize her to carry out daily affairs in his absence. A wife, on the other hand, should be diligent in carrying out her duties, hospitable towards her husband's relatives and friends, and show kindness towards maids or servants. She should be faithful towards her husband and be able to manage the household affairs. As parents, they have the duty to restrain their children from unwholesome or unskillful actions, and to promote wholesome and skillful actions. They should also observe their inclinations and aptitudes and guide them towards a suitable profession, provide marriage guidance, and hand over their inheritance at an appropriate time. Now you may think that it is understood that a husband would cherish his wife and a wife would cherish her husband, but this is not so. There are many people who marry, but after a few months or few years, they don't really cherish one another. They don't really care for one another. In married life, there must be love, but more than that, there must be trust and respect. You must have the respect for one another. A husband must respect his wife, and you must take it from where she is coming from. You cannot want her. You cannot expect her to be what you want her to be throughout your whole life. And in the same manner, the wife towards the husband, the wife cannot expect the husband to be what she wants him to be. In a real loving life, you must have these three things: respect, trust, and care for one another. Because there is bound to be ups and downs in life, and you will need to support one another in times of trouble. Those who choose to marry should take their married life as a real workshop of life, an opportunity to cultivate qualities such as patience, tolerance, and understanding. While having children to look after, most people will also have aging parents to care for,
and these various responsibilities can make life quite stressful. On the one hand, family life provides the precious opportunity for your children to be born as human beings with a unique potential to cultivate and develop their mind to gain liberation. Caring for aging parents provides the opportunity for you to pave the way for them to have a good rebirth. However, on the other hand, there will be many great challenges in this situation, and thus you will also start to see dukkha, the unsatisfactory nature of life, and begin to understand that life is not just about pursuing worldly pleasures. This will actually prepare oneself for the next stage of life. Now the next blessing is anakulaja kammanta. This refers to engaging in peaceful occupation. There are 5 kinds of unrighteous or wrong livelihood which should be avoided. They are 1. Production and sales of armaments and weapons to destroy lives. 2. Production and sales of poisons to destroy sentient beings. 3. Production and sales of drugs and intoxicants that causes one to lose control of one's mind. 4. Slave trade, as in human trafficking. And 5th, bringing up of animals for slaughter. These unrighteous livelihood, whilst bringing in lots of money, also bring along untimely death, illnesses, mental stress, and various disturbances, and many other forms of suffering. When you engage in right livelihood, avoiding hurting or harming others, killing, stealing, lying, and cheating others, then your minds will be more peaceful, and you will be able to have quality time for your children and other family members. Whilst leading a household life, you still have some other worldly responsibilities to become a pillar of society. Part 2. Whilst leading a household life, you still have some other worldly responsibilities to become a pillar of society. And the blessings are Dhanancha Dhammacharyacha Nyatakanancha Sangaho Anavajani Kammani Etang Mangala Muttamang. Generosity, righteous conduct, helping or supporting relatives, and blameless actions. These are the highest blessings. Dana refer to the act of giving or generosity. What you give is what you have received, and what you receive is what you have given. That is the law of cause and effect. What goes around comes around. Generosity is the basis of a virtuous way of life. The aim is to reduce clinging and attachment. It lays the foundation for our material wealth and comfort, as well as enabling us to support our family, community, and society. Dhammacharya is righteous conduct. Living in accordance to the Dhamma means living according to the principles that uphold peace and happiness, both for ourselves and for others around us. This includes the observance of the basic 5 precepts and the performance of our duties and responsibilities as laid out in the Mangala Sutta. This is the discourse which explains the duties and responsibilities of children to parents, parents to children, pupil to teachers and teachers to pupil, friends to friends, husband to wife and wife to husband, employers to employees and employees to employers, and disciples to religious teachers, and religious teachers to disciples. The Sigalovada Sutta is referred to as the lay Buddhist ethics. It provides a very comprehensive understanding of our roles in society to maintain peace and harmony. The next blessing is Jnana Kanancha Sangaho, or the supporting of relatives. When your brother or sister or some other relatives are in trouble, you come forward to offer them a helping hand. You need to understand that from the karmic point of view, the reason why we are born in a certain family and become related to one another is actually the result of a karma from the past. Even your marriage to one another, the children that you get, these are also your karmic bonds from the past. As such, we need to fulfill our duties and obligations towards them. Moreover, in times of crisis, when we are in need of food, shelter, and other basic requirements of life, who could we first turn to? We will need to turn to our own relatives or some trustworthy friends, which can also be considered as our relatives. The next blessing is Anavajjani Kammani. This refers to blameless actions. When we talk about blameless actions, we need to understand that no one in this world is totally free from blame. So we need to know where the blame is coming from. If wise people blame you, then you should take it into consideration. If foolish people blame you, then don't worry so much. Your actions become blamable because they are conditioned by the unskillful or unwholesome roots of greed, hatred, and delusion, giving rise to unskillful thoughts, speech, and body actions. Unskillful thoughts are thoughts of covetousness, ill will, and wrong view. Unskillful speech consists of lying, slandering, harsh and frivolous talk, and unskillful actions consist of killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. These are the 10 unwholesome or unskillful actions which should be avoided in order to live a blameless way of life. The next stanza on the adulthood phase reads as Arati virati papa majapanaja sanyamo apamadoja dhammesu etang mangala muttamang. That is, to cease and abstain from evil, avoiding intoxicants, steadfastness in virtue. This is the highest blessings. Towards the middle and later part of your adulthood, you will need to strengthen your mind and develop wisdom in order to face the challenges of the household life. While supporting your children for their higher studies, caring for elderly parents, and assuming greater responsibilities at workplace and so on. Hence the need for a strong foundation in discipline and moral integrity by ceasing and avoiding all unskillful actions. Arati virati papa. This means that you must abstain, and not only abstain, but also to put an end to the unskillful habit patterns. This can only come about through the cultivation of mindfulness and steadfastness in virtue. Majapana cha sanyamo. This refers to the total avoidance of intoxicants, as you cannot afford to lose control of your mind, as you assume greater responsibilities at home and at work. In the Sigalovada Sutta, the Buddha outlines 6 consequences of losing control of your mind through drunkenness. They are 1. The loss of wealth, increase of quarrels, susceptibility to disease, earning bad reputation, shameless exposure of the body, and weakening of intellect. Hence the need to overcome such habitual tendencies. Apamadoja dhammesu. This refers to steadfastness in virtue through the diligent observance of the 5 precepts and the performance of your duties and responsibilities as a householder. The cultivation of general mindfulness on your thoughts, speech and body actions, as well as the practice of the 4 Brahma Viharas, such as metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, and upekkha, equanimity. All these should provide a good foundation for further mental cultivation in your next stage of life. The next set of blessings or qualities to be developed are as follows. Garavocha nivatocha santutticha katanyata kalena dhammasavanang etang mangala muttamang. Reverence, humility, contentment, gratitude, and timely listening to the Dhamma. This is the highest blessings. These are the basic requisites for a spiritual way of life. With regards to respect, there are 2 kinds of elders that need to be respected. First is our physical elder, that is, those who are older than us, such as our parents, grandparents, teachers, brothers, sisters, and so on, within the family, as well as those outside our extended family, which includes relatives and others. Then the second kind of elder refers to our spiritual elders, our religious or spiritual teachers, even though they may be younger in age. Members of the Sangha will usually recite the following chanting blessings during dana offering, and it is about the benefits of reverence. The blessing chanting will be like this. Abhivadana silissa niccang vadda pachayino chatharo dhamma vaddanti ayu vanno sukhang bala. The meaning is this. For one who is in the habit of constantly honoring and respecting the elders, 4 blessings increase: lifespan, good complexion, bliss or happiness, and strength. By respecting and listening to the advices of your spiritual teachers and parents, you can avoid certain harm and dangers that can be life-threatening. Through respect and humility, valuable knowledge and living skills could be transmitted from parents and teachers to you. When you are respectful and not arrogant, you are naturally more calm and peaceful. Hence the good complexion, happiness and strength, as anger and arrogance saps energy. The next virtue or quality is santutti or contentment. Contentment is the greatest wealth. Santutti paramang dhanang. At this stage of one's life, it is important to assess your achievements in your worldly pursuits and develop a sense of contentment so that you will be able to get on to a more spiritual way of life. Katanyu refers to gratitude, and gratitude is another important ingredient of your spiritual quest for truth. It is a great purifier of the mind. Often, due to our anger, our minds can get very clouded, and you will tend to forget all the goodness which your parents, teachers, or spouse have done for you. When your mind is not in good state, you will tend to find faults with others and that will make you feel even more agitated and disgusted with the people around you and things around you. If you can just pause for a few moments to recall the good things that others have done for you, then you will soon begin to smile again. That's the power of gratitude, cherishing and appreciating the goodness of others. You should not let a little mistake or weakness of others to spoil all the goodness that you have received from them. Respect, humility, contentment, and gratitude are the values of life that will help you to reduce your ego and the strong feeling of I and my. At the end of the day, it is the ego which arises as a result. It is a false notion of the idea of self, which is the cause of all human sufferings. So, garavocha, nivatocha, santutticha, katanyuta, these are actually the prerequisites of a spiritual life. Whilst you are still a householder, towards the end of this phase of life, when you begin to fulfill your duties, you should be developing these qualities more and more. These qualities of respect, humility, contentment, and gratitude are also important for the young, but more so as we grow older, because after acquiring vast knowledge and worldly possessions, name and fame, people tend to grow in pride and vanity. So if these values are not present, family quarrels and breakdowns can arise, thus obstructing our spiritual path. The next blessing in life is about timely listening to Dhamma. Kalena Dhamma Savana. Timely listening to Dhamma is to gain the necessary inspiration and motivation to keep walking and progressing in the Dhamma's path without going astray, and also to constantly remind you of the true nature of life, to help you to prepare to cope with the ups and downs of life, whether material or spiritual. For example, when you are healthy, you listen to the Dhamma for your personal growth and development. When you are sick, you also have the opportunity to listen to certain Dharma that will give you encouragement how to face your illness and overcome your difficulties. When you are in trouble or in crisis, you need to be reminded of the Dharma. When you are in fear and anxiety, you will need to go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Hence the importance of timely listening to the Dhamma. This is the end of the section, The Spiritual Life and the Highest Attainment. Once you have developed the qualities in the second phase of life, the third phase is about attaining to a certain degree of spiritual maturity. By this time, you would have had a better understanding about the unsatisfactoriness of life, and also you have experienced the fleeting nature of sensual pleasures. And it is about time to look forward to a more lasting happiness and peace through the Dhamma's way. This third phase of life is when you should begin to reduce and relinquish your worldly duties and responsibilities, and you start to go for retreats more often. Those who have chosen to skip the life of a householder should focus on this phase of life to attain to spiritual maturity. The Buddha's advice is as follows: Kanti cha savachasata samananancha dasanam kalena dhammasakacha etang mangala muttamang. Patience or endurance, obedience, the sight of samanas or holy ones, and timely discussion of the Dharma, This is the highest blessing. Khanti paramang tapotitika. Patience or endurance is the highest form of self-discipline. The Pali word khanti is usually explained as patience or endurance. Sovachasa refers to obedience, but it means more than that. When we practice the Dhamma, especially in retreat conditions, we need to take instructions from our teachers. We need to exercise lots of patience and endurance. When our mistakes are pointed out to us, we should not get angry, but practice patience and also have the willingness to correct and amend ourselves. Thus, the word obedience should also include the idea of an amenable character, as someone who is easy to speak to while giving instructions. This will lead to the next verse, Samananancha Dasanam. This refers to the sight of a samana or a holy one. What it means here is that the mere sight or presence of a holy person will make you feel happy and joyful. If your hearts are open to rejoice with the sight or presence of great masters and teachers, you will be able to feel a sense of bliss and upliftment, thereby receiving the necessary transmission for your spiritual accomplishment. Hence the importance of making the right connections in life. Those who do not have the right connections and associations will not know how to rejoice, even if they come face to face with the Buddha or some other great masters or teachers. When you are connected and associated with authentic teachers, you will have the good opportunity to clarify your doubts on the more subtle and profound aspects of Dharma. That's what Kalena Dhammasakacha is about. That is, to have timely discussion of Dharma. You may first have discussions of Dharma with your Dhamma friends, but when there are certain issues that you cannot understand, then you should clarify them with your spiritual teachers who are your real Kalyana Mitta or spiritual friends. This will quickly lead you to the next and final phase of life, that is, the life of a noble one. The Dhamma is about making you from an ordinary human being into a good human being, then from a good human being into a noble human being, that is, one who has become a truly peaceful and harmless person, and who has distanced himself or herself from greed, hatred, and delusion. The actual practice that leads to transformation from an ordinary worldly being to a noble one is explained in the following stanza. Tapocha brahmacharyancha arya sachana dasanam nibbana sachikriyacha etang mangala muttamang. Practicing restraint, leading a holy life, seeing the noble truths, and the realization of Nibbana. This is the highest blessings. Tapocha brahmacharyancha. Tapo, or self-discipline, is about restraining our body, speech, and mind. And brahmacharya is about leading a pure and holy life. These two qualities will pave the way for us to go beyond sensory perceptions, to develop wisdom and insights into the true nature of our life. The information and knowledge we receive through our ordinary sensory perception are not complete and reliable, because our eyes can only see within a certain spectrum of light waves, from ultraviolet to infrared. Beyond that, we are unable to see. And because we cannot see for ourselves,
With our physical eyes, we tend to reject the existence of those phenomena that fall beyond the limit of our physical eyesight. Similarly, with our ears, we can only hear within a certain frequency of sound waves. Cats can see better than us at night, and dogs can hear better than us at all times. Our human sensory perceptions are limited. Our physical bodies, made up of skin, flesh, and bones, can be broken down into elements such as carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, calcium, and all the other elements. And these various elements can be further broken down into atoms, which are defined as 99.999% empty space. More than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha, in the laboratory of his enlightened mind, was able to see through the emptiness of our body and feelings, and he described them in terms of foam and bubbles. Do you really believe that your body is really empty? No, it is hard to believe, because we tend to only trust the information and knowledge received through our limited ordinary sensory perceptions. In order to realize the true nature of life and things around us, we need to go beyond our sensory perceptions. Hence the need for sense restraint and a pure and holy life. The way to go beyond our ordinary sense faculties is through the cultivation of the four foundations of mindfulness, namely mindfulness on the body, feelings, mind or mental states, and the Dharma. The development of these four foundations of mindfulness progresses from one to the other, until the attainment of Nibbana and the complete realization of the Four Noble Truths. This is what is meant by Arya Sachana Dassana, seeing the Noble Truths, and Nibbana Sachikriya, the realization of Nibbana. It is through the systematic cultivation of the four foundations of mindfulness that we will be able to attain to higher knowledges and insights, and be able to see what the physical eyes cannot see, to hear what the physical ears cannot hear, and to know what the ordinary undeveloped mind can know. Truth lies beyond thoughts and conceptual understanding. Hence the need to go beyond our sensory perceptions. But our yearning for sensual pleasures is so strong because of the habitual tendencies of grasping, clinging, and attachments which has been going on from life to life. So we need real courage, effort, and perseverance to reduce and overcome these habitual tendencies. Now that we are born as human beings, we have the unique ability to develop and liberate our minds. Furthermore, we are so fortunate to be born at a time when the Dhamma is still available. And since we have the merits to make the right connections to receive the sublime teachings of the Buddha, we should make good use of this opportunity to study and practice, to cultivate the necessary wisdom and insights that will lead us to our final liberation, so that we will be able to help others to cross the ocean of samsara, the cycle of birth and death. Upon the complete realization of the Four Noble Truths and the attainment of Nibbana comes the final blessing. Puttassa loka dhammehi chittang yasana kampati asokang virajang kemang etang mangala muttamang. A mind unshaken by contact with changing worldly conditions, sorrowless, stainless, and secure. This is the highest blessings. Puttassa loka dhammehi chittang yasana kampati. This refers to a mind that is not moved or shaken by the 8 worldly phenomena, and these are profit, loss, praise, blame, fame, ill fame, happiness and sorrow. Once you have truly realized the Four Noble Truths and the true nature of life and things around you, you will not be affected by these worldly phenomena. The first pair is profit and loss. When you do business, sometimes you make money, sometimes you lose. When you make money, you are not too excited about it. You should not spend everything, but keep something for the rainy day. When the time comes that you lose money, then at least you have some savings and you don't get upset. There are many young ones these days who do not understand this dharmic principle. They are often overjoyed when they make profit, and they get very stressed and depressed when they lose money. The whole idea of practicing the Dhamma, or what the Buddha taught, is to develop wisdom so that we will not be disturbed by all these worldly phenomena. When somebody praises you, remember the same person may also blame you. One day you become popular, the next day you can become unpopular. Politicians especially should know this very well. Similarly, sometimes we are happy, sometimes unhappy. What we call real maturity is when you have this kind of enlightened, equanimous mind, and you don't get affected by adverse conditions so easily. The next blessing, asokang, and this means sorrowless. Why do people feel sorrowful? It's because of their cravings and attachment. Owing to strong attachment, they will feel very sad and sorrowful when they lose their loved ones, or when they lose their business, or when someone cheated them. When you have developed some wisdom, you will know the impermanent nature of life and things around you, and you will also know how to think in such a way that will lessen and overcome your problems. If someone has cheated you, for example, you should understand that in the long rounds of samsaric existence, you must have also cheated others. So now is payback time, when karma ripens. Then you will be able to smile and say, "Thank you. You have given me the opportunity to clear my karma. If I have cheated you in the past, I am sorry. May you be well and happy." With wisdom, you will be able to see things differently. When you fall sick, you can still smile and say, "Thank you. With all the merits that I have done, now this illness is helping me to clear my karma, the pain and sufferings which I have inflicted on so many others in the past." In your old age, when you fall sick and in pain, you will still be able to be cheerful and grateful to have the opportunity to clear your karma amidst the support that you are receiving from your loved ones and the blessings of the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. And when the time comes for you to breathe your last breath, and if you have not completed your task in overcoming greed, hatred, delusion, you should realize that this is something which you have gone through countless times before, from life to life. But now that you have come to the Dhamma, you must make sure that this time you will do it right, without fear and confusion, but with strong faith and confidence in the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, so that you will be able to make the clear aspiration that whatever happens, you will continue to grow in the Dhamma's path until final liberation is attained, so that you will be able to reach out to others to help them cross the ocean of samsara. If you genuinely practice the Dhamma as laid out in this Mangala Sutta,
then towards the end of your life, you will have equanimity. You will not be disturbed by all the worldly conditions, and your mind will be free from sorrow. Having led a harmless and peaceful way of life, your mind is stainless, virajang, and secure, kemang, free from the taints of greed, hatred, and delusion. Asokang, virajang, kemang, they are actually the attributes of an arahant, the worthy one, who has distanced himself or herself from the tendencies of greed, hatred, and delusion. Having gone through this highest form of spiritual development, the Mangala Sutta concludes with this verse: Eta disani katwana sabbata maparajita sabbata sotting gachanti tang tesang mangala muttamanti. Those who fulfill all these conditions, they are invincible wherever they go. They will find well-being and safety everywhere. This is the highest blessing. This marks the fourth and the last phase of life, which represents the highest attainment in life, when one truly enjoys the fruition of a spiritual life.